This is TW Wrestling Talk here with a mid-December edition of the program here on YouTube. Um, we are just a matter of days away now from the TLC pay-per-view, the last pay-per-view of 2012. Um, and I also want to mention that we're coming off, the changes to the main event of the pay-per-view due to CM Punk's injury. Um, and overall, say we're coming off a pretty poor edition of Monday Night Raw this past Monday, um, on a bunch of levels. Um, I mean, in general, this show of Monday Night Raw, it was one of those shows where it seemed they didn't have really any ideas of anything important to do. It seems like a show where they did so many things just for the heck of it, and it didn't really have any um, true direction, and no oomph to the show. Um, and again, it just seemed like another show that for the most part was just thrown together, and it really wasn't very entertaining. I didn't get into it at all. Um, so but TW Wrestling Talk, I give the show a full chance. To me it's a duty to look at what WWE is giving us on Raw and SmackDown, and pay-per-views and covering it. So but like I said, there are some problems with this episode of Raw. Um, I'm sure CM Punk being limited in what he can do for the next few weeks, might have been part of that. But there was, for instance, another one of those segments, featuring Vicky Guerrero and Mr. McMahon, like last week, where they they have Vicky Guerrero do this, kind of play like she's got a 70 IQ, and just really coming off embarrassingly, and Vince McMahon, kind of just goofing around, having fun. It's just silliness that doesn't have too much of a place in the show, really. Um, and to make a divas match, if you want to call Vicky Guerrero a diva or not, you know, what is already a weak divas division, and we get Vicky Guerrero taking on AJ, you know, who's old enough to be her daughter, um, fighting on TV. I mean, it's really, it's not. I don't know what WWE is thinking by doing. I mean, that's not entertaining. Um, and it doesn't. It's not helping anyone in any way, really. It really isn't. Um, of course, they brought Brad Maddox out, as a referee, and that kind of threw a little bit of a curveball there in the story. Um, but it's kind of back to AJ's old flipping out. And throughout the night, they had these, there were a few scenes with Cena backstage and AJ, and just silliness that kind of trying to be funny, and it really didn't work for me. And it just kind of it was a lot of padding in this show with things like that. The opening segment, with Dolph Ziggler, you know, it, it, I mean, it seemed like it was going to be a good segment there, but it just kind of turned into another moment where Dolph Ziggler gets embarrassed, which he gets knocked off the ladder, and it's another one. It's another sign that Dolph Ziggler, he needs to win at tables, ladders, and chairs. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, because the past few weeks they've been having them lose matches and take pinfalls and sort of get embarrassed. And this episode of Raw was kind of no different. Um, the Sheamus and him did have a match later on, which ended in disqualification. Kind of predictably. Not too much wrong with that really, but the main the after not long after that of course they had that Vicky and Vince McMahon segment. Felt a lot like last week's segment. Um, and then before I know it, Vince McMahon is saying, "Now let's tell the truth" or something. Our truth comes out, and then they show Wade Barrett standing in the ring, and I'm thinking, well, what the heck's going on here? I mean, it just it doesn't make sense. It's as if they either brought Wade Barrett out and as if they just had him just stand there quietly, without any of us watching on TV knowing, or it's as if he's snuck out through the crowd or something, just kind of standing in the ring, and then all of a sudden, poof, there he is. You know, he didn't even have an entrance, really. Um, and then and then he takes, he gets beat rather easily by the man he's supposed to be facing the Intercontinental Championship for. I mean, this was it gets one of those. This was, stupid. I've put the past few weeks. Wade Barrett's a guy that I'm watching to see if they improve how he gets used, and they really aren't. In fact, they're only getting worse by having him lose a match so easily like that. To Kofi Kingston, to a roll up pin in what 3 minutes. I mean, this was crap. And WWE, if, they know they need new stars, yet they want to keep Wade Barrett in the mid card. They don't want to see what he's got in the main event. I mean, not only he didn't even look like a mid carder this night. He looked like a jobber. He looked like a nobody. So I mean, they got to start, using their heads, and giving this guy a better shot. And I'm going to continue to say that until they, continue to let him, just play this pedestrian role. And I mean, we'll see. I mean, who knows? He could win the Intercontinental Championship at TLC. But then again, that won't do him too much good either, because he's already been Intercontinental Champion, a little while back. I mean, it's not as if he just debuted back in September, whenever it was, because that's when he came back. He's been around now. They got to give him a shot in the main event picture. I don't know what you know. There's always room. There's always ways to build guys up, as far as I'm concerned. I don't want to hear the argument that, oh well, there's only so much room for main eventers, and that you know guys like The Rock can't, when they come back, they take up somebody's spot. No, there's no such thing. In fact, it's possible that you could build up 10 main eventers properly, if you really wanted to. You build young guys around veterans, like you build Ziggler around Cena, for instance. WWE has a chance to do that, I might add. Build Ziggler, a guy who's teetering on the upper mid card. You know, they get him over John Cena. There you go. You basically, you pretty well have a main eventer there. Um, so, like I said, building Wade Barrett up is something they should be doing, but they're not. Um, Dolph Ziggler, again, they're gonna hopefully they'll build him up in the at TLC effectively, and don't hold his momentum so much, um, and get him over John Cena. Um, of course, we saw the main event, which featured Big Show and Cena. Nothing too too great there. Um, I was also, disappointed that they kind of relied on the same formula as last week when they kind of had everyone brawling. Um, Cena speared Big Show through a table. I mean, it was more like a half spear. It wasn't, it didn't look very devastating at all or legitimate. But aside from that, I mean, it was kind of just brawling, and they went off the air. There was no one who really had a clear advantage between Ryback and the Shield, and they kind of relied on the same formula as last week in a couple places on Raw this week. Um, that there was that, of course, that ending. It wasn't as obviously it wasn't as great of an ending as last week. Um, but and then of course there was another Miz TV segment, which was probably the highlight of the show. um, I and it was with mid carders, a tag team, Damian Sandow and Cody Rhodes, um, who I am now digging the new mustache that Cody Rhodes is currently sporting.
Who wants a mustache ride?
So yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I think it's getting him over a little bit more in a Daniel Bryan kind of way. It just kind of added something different to his character that I don't know. I just a little more a little more comical you know attributes to his character, along with Damian Sandow. In the same way, and it makes it makes me enjoy those guys more. I mean, that, and that of course the Miz, as always, doing a good job in this segment. Um, but I think WWE's got to watch doing is not overkilling us with Miz TV segments. The past 3 weeks, past 2 weeks actually, they've been had inside the past 2 weeks they've had three Miz TV segments. So I mean, don't overkill us. I mean, have Miz be in some good matches too. Have him beat some good competition. Um, but he does do a good job with these Miz TV segments. This time it took place on the stage, so that had a little bit of an interesting change to it, and it was good overall. Without any further ado, before proceeding, um, gonna cut this segment short here for the next part of TW Wrestling Talk. So please check out part 2 as I move forward in this edition of TW Wrestling Talk.